A shockwave from the explosion hurled Zombini off the staircase and sent him tumbling through the air, where he crashed through an oaken table in a heap on the ground floor of Birdhaven Castle. Lord Indara rose shakily to his feet. Blood poured from a gash on the top of his head. Zombini clumsily reached around his sword belt in a daze and drew out his steel. He looked up and saw battle raging all around him. The Vigor troops were no true soldiers, and his elite Owlmen were cutting them down with gusto. Terribly outnumbered, the Owlmen were fighting off the invaders very well. Birdhaven! The lord of the castle yelled as he charged at the nearest Vigor man-at-arms, cutting him down with a single stroke. Zombini quickly made his way over to the thickest part of the fighting and stood back to back with his captain of guards. The pair hacked the enemy to bloody bits, parrying, slicing, smashing, and cutting as greater and greater enemy numbers flooded the room. Suddenly, a booming voice sounded off from atop one of the elevated library balconies. Lord Indara looked up and saw a red-cloaked man with a red face and a shock of white hair, looking down at the main hall of Birdhaven.
Do not harm another Vigor soldier. Kill the Lord of the Castle. Mass suggestion.
Half of the Owl Lord's remaining Owlmen stopped fighting. They turned their backs on the enemy and advanced on Birdhaven's defenders. The captain of guards turned to his lord.
Retreat, Lord Indara. This castle is lost.
Not while I draw breath, the Owl Lord exclaimed with determination. The defenders ascended the staircase and turned to meet their foes on the first landing. Once again, they put forth a valiant effort in fending off the enemy. The enemy Owlmen were much more formidable and difficult to cut down than the Vigor rabble, but Zombini and his captain did their damnedest to kill as many as they could. The battle raged for what felt like hours to Zombini, but reality was only a few short minutes. The advancing enemy soldiers began to thin out, and it seemed as if the castle's defenders had won the day. The captain thrusted his sword through the last Vigor soldier's visor, and the sound of his skull crunching echoed through the nearly empty chamber. A dozen Owlmen-at-arms, the captain of guard, and Lord Zombini Indara were the only survivors on the defenders' side. All 14 men were covered in slick blood, their own and that of the enemy. Their mail was dented, the edges of their weapons were dull, and each man was heaving, trying to catch their breath after the intensity of the grueling battle. Piles of corpses littered the stairs and the main hall. The doors at the front entrance swung open once more, and another few dozen Vigor soldiers entered the lobby. The red-cloaked man with the red face reappeared on the same balcony, smiling broadly.
There will be plenty of time to search for the ring. For now, I'll enjoy the show.
The 14 defenders looked to one another in resignation. The men knew that none of them would leave this room alive. Enormous owl statues were mounted high near the vaulted ceilings of the cavernous main hall, but the reign of the Owl Lord was at an end. Zombini Indara, panting, exhausted, bruised, and completely out of breath, gave his last command as Lord of Birdhaven. We can yield and plead for mercy. Mayhaps they'll throw us in a dungeon somewhere or sell us like cattle. But we are brothers of the owl. I won't go down as a craven. I'll fight to my last. My loyal men, my owl men, will you do the same? All said in unison. Aye, aye, aye. captain nodded at Zombini and said without fear,
Our swords are yours, my lord, like always.
A single cloaked swordsman approached the stairwell. A man with curly, long black hair, a hideous pink scar on his face, and a slaver of drool dripping from the side of his mouth. He reached behind his back and slowly drew his enormous greatsword. The scrape of the pink blade's edge on the leather sheath created an intimidating sound. Bjorn want Cathal. Bjorn take Cathal. You and your men are too weak to stop me.
Steel yourself!
Cried the captain of guards as he lunged towards Bjorn. He thrusted his blade at Bjorn's chest. For a moment, it seemed the Vigor Lord didn't even attempt to avoid the attack. In the instant the blade would strike true, Bjorn moved in a flash to the captain's side and sheathed his own blade. The captain was still outstretched in a thrusting motion. He turned his head towards Bjorn, gritted his teeth, then... A fountain of blood erupted from under the captain's ribs. He collapsed on the floor and rapidly bled out. Once again, the swordsman drew his greatsword in that same deliberate manner.
Owlman, kill him!
Yelled one of Indara's soldiers. The remaining men of Birdhaven surged towards Bjorn in a wave as a pink aura surrounded the Vigor Lord. Bjorn pulled on a string attached to the pink pouch on his sword hilt, and the pouch snapped open. Pieces of pink paper floated into the air and burnt up into pink flames. Creating a thick pink mist that quickly enveloped the room. The first man reached Bjorn and was cut down instantly with a lightning-fast sword strike. He swung his greatsword so quickly, even Lord Indara couldn't follow the movement of the queer pink steel with his eyes. Bjorn came back around for a backhanded slash, and this time, something new happened. The enormous sword glowed with pink light and extended with unbelievable speed. The blade lengthened, then tore through two men standing in front of the swordsman and smashed into the stairs. Then, it continued to travel, ripping the stairs apart, sending the rest of the castle's defenders careening off the sides of the staircase. The tip of Wallopbuster's blade soared straight towards Lord Indara's chest, where he attempted to parry it with his own blade. The force of the impact pushed Zombini to the back of the staircase landing and through the glass window, shattering it and spraying shards of glass into the night sky. The pink aura surrounding Bjorn glowed even more brightly. More and more of the pink paper flew into the air and burned up. With dramatically increased speed and strength, Lord Skytaker effortlessly danced from soldier to soldier, cutting down the remaining owlmen. Zombini crashed on a stone pathway in the courtyard of Birdhaven, landing on a pile of glass shards. The Owl Lord's body was bleeding profusely from cuts he sustained during and after the fall. As Zombini slipped in and out of consciousness, he smelled his castle burning. Lord Indara fell unconscious as Birdhaven, his ancestral home, was put to the torch. When he slept, the nightmares returned.